If you were going to give advice to a new gardener, what would you tell them? I asked this very question in my class. My students gave me an interesting variety of answers. Some of my students are new to gardening, while others have been gardening actually for decades. I have some students who have been gardening longer than I've been alive. And so I've got a whole stack of answers here. Today we're going to take a look through, read a couple of these, and I'll give you my thoughts on them. Stick around. Well, one of the first things that I see on the top page here is correct watering times and amount of water. Really excellent advice for new gardeners. To be totally honest, we'll start with the amount of water. Believe it or not, overwatering is actually a bigger problem than underwatering for most gardeners. Now, as far as the correct time of day to water, I always ask this in my class. What time of day should we water? A lot of times folks say in the evening or at night, when in reality, the best time of day to water your plants is actually first thing in the morning. I'd give evening second place, but you definitely don't want to water during the hot part of the day once the sun is up there evaporating everything away. Let's see here. Got a lot of papers to go through. Here's one that I really like on the top paper still. Number 3, don't kill beneficial insects. Yes, and I think I've gone through this a couple of times in my class and in the videos. But ladybugs, specifically ladybug larvae. I have had so many students come to me in class and show me a picture of a ladybug larva and ask me, how do I kill this insect? They say, it's all over my plants. I've asked them a couple of times when this has happened, have you released ladybugs recently? And a couple of times I've gotten the answer, why, yes, how did you know? And I told them, well, that's because you're looking at ladybug larvae there. So make sure if you're going to spray a pesticide in your garden that you take a look, good idea, at least with your eyes, but maybe even with a jeweler's loupe or a magnifying glass, see what's going on around the pest that you're spraying. Because if you've got beneficial insects or beneficial larvae already eating those insect pests, chances are you probably don't need to do anything about them. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Here's another good one, and it's something that I've covered in another video, but making sure that you have quality tools. This is important, taking a look at the quality of the tools that you're purchasing. A lot of times folks go out to places like Harbor Freight or Home Depot and they purchase the absolute cheapest tool that they can get their hands on. And this is not the best choice. I've had clippers that have lasted me less than 6 months. These were clippers that I got from a certain store. I guess I shouldn't name names here. But it was a pair of $9 or $10 pruners, lasted me less than 6 months. Compare this to my Felco pruners, which I've had for well over 30 years now. In the long run, you end up saving a lot of money when you purchase tools that are high quality that are going to last a long time. I know that it's a higher cost up front, but it ends up paying dividends over time. All right. Well, I already mentioned don't overwater, but here's another student who said don't overwater, root rot. Funny thing, when you overwater, it looks very similar to when you underwater. So if you notice that leaves are turning yellow on your plants, this could be underwatering, but it can also be overwatering. Something that I look out for is if you notice that the older leaves are the ones that are drying up and falling off of the plant, this can be an indication that the plant doesn't have enough water. It might be a little dehydrated. But if you notice that the young leaves are falling off of the plant at the same time as the older leaves, this is often an indication that you are actually overwatering your plant as opposed to underwatering it. Of course, if the entire plant is completely dehydrated, chances are it probably is underwatering instead of overwatering, but great tip. And I know this sounds silly, just take your finger and stick it in the soil. If the soil is soaking wet before you water, you're overwatering. If it's dry, maybe you're underwatering, but always check the soil before you start putting water down. All right, let's see here. Make sure that you water deep enough. That's another important one. A lot of times folks go out into the garden and they just kind of spritz the plants, and then they walk away and they don't see how far down the water actually went. Remember that you don't want to water the top of the plant. You don't need to water the leaves. Of course, that can be good for getting dust off of your plants, but water is absorbed by the roots. So make sure that you are watering at the soil level. Make sure that you're watering the roots. After you've watered a plant, it's a good idea to, again, you can take your finger, you can take a soil probe, or you can take a shovel, dig down a little bit, see how deep that water went. All right, let's see. Planting site selection. This is another really good one. Determine whether the area you're planting in is sun or shade. A lot of times, and when I was younger, I used to come out and I'd get a 6-pack of flowers and it said full sun. So I'd walk outside at noon and I'd look around and I'd go, well, this area is sunny right here. Why don't I just plop this plant right here in the ground where it's sunny right now? Remember that just because it's sunny in a spot when you're planting doesn't mean that that's actually a full sun area. Remember that full sun is going to be 6+ hours a day. Partial is going to be around 6, and then a shade area is going to be under 6 hours per day, probably closer to 4 to 6, or perhaps even less. So check to see how much sun an area actually gets before you assume that it's a shady area or a sunny area. You can do this by going outside a couple of times per day. A lot of times I tell folks to do it at, let's say, 9 o'clock, 12, 3, and 6. Look at the same spot during those 4 times, and if the area is shady 2 times and sunny 2 times, then that's a partial shade area. If it's sunny 3 or 4 times, then it's full sun, and if it's shady, well, almost all the time, then you get it, right? I tend to over-explain things. I apologize. Okay, let's see here. What else do we have? This is another good one on the same page. I better start going through these. I tell you, I'm only taking tips off of the first 2 pages. But I really like this tip here. Research and find out what kinds of plants you should plant in your area. This is important. Take a look at the planting zones. Find out what planting zone you're in and make sure that whenever you're selecting plants at the nursery, that you are selecting plants that do well in your zone. Now, most nurseries, you don't have to worry about this because the person who's purchasing at the nursery, generally speaking, will purchase plants that do well in the area around the nursery. But I have encountered issues where in some nurseries, sometimes folks get really excited by a new variety of a plant, and maybe they're not paying that much attention to the area that it's supposed to grow in. Or maybe you live in an area like here in California, where you drive 10 miles that way and you're at the beach, and you drive 10 miles that way and you're at the mountains. So some nurseries might have a wide variety of plants for different zones. So good idea to make sure that you are selecting the plant that's for the zone you're in. All right, now let's see here. Go through a few more of these. Excuse me for just 1 second. I gotta sip my coffee here a little bit. I just got back from Japan a couple of days ago, and I'm still suffering from jet lag a little bit. So don't mind me if I look a little tired. I look a little tired because I am a little tired. I think that I'll just do 2 more here. Let's see. Here's a funny one. I like this. Plants are therapy because they don't talk back. Okay, that's not a real gardening tip, but well, maybe it is a good gardening tip. It is true. The plants don't talk back, so gardening is great therapy. Last tip I'll give here, and here's a really important one, and this is something that I bring up in my classes quite a bit with my students, is get kids out in the garden. If you've got kids, if you've got grandkids, nieces, nephews, any kids, whatever age they might be, it's so important for kids to get out into the garden. I spent a couple of years working for Diamond Point Elementary School in Pomona Unified School District. And I've got to say that working there reminded me of my childhood. It reminded me of spending time gardening with my grandparents and with my parents. Working in that job, working with those kids, reminded me of my own childhood, and it helped me to realize how important my gardening experiences in early life really were. I'm afraid that a lot of kids don't get enough time outside in the garden these days, especially with all of our technology. So if you've got kids, take them outside, get them into the garden. I know that it can be difficult sometimes, but especially the young kids, get them out there, get their hands in the soil, teach them where their food comes from. This is so important. It's something that we should all be doing. In fact, I'll share one short story with you, and then we'll part ways today. I had a class where I really hammered in the point that we need to get kids out into the garden. And a month or two later, one of my students came up to me and she said that she had a new neighbor that had moved in. And these new neighbors had a little girl that was 2-3 years old, somewhere around there. And so my student, who's an older adult, went over to the new neighbors, knocked on the door and said, "Hey, how would you like to come over on the weekend and garden together?" The young couple, they kind of looked at each other and they kind of went, okay, sure, why not? So she invited them over. And when they came over, she said, "Can I teach your daughter how to garden?" And they said, "Sure." And so she started gardening with the parents. They started teaching the little girl how to garden. And my student said after a month or two, this little girl who was no more than 3 years old was planting seeds on her own, and they could sit her down and she was tugging all the weeds, helping with that. There's no age that's too young. Get them out into the garden. If you don't have your own kids, if you've got neighbors that got kids, invite the whole family over, have lunch on the weekends. This is going to help build community, and it's so good for the kids. It's so good for them, not only to learn in the garden, but it's good for their physical health. It's good for their mental health. I think this is something we all need right now in our society. All right, well, that is it for today. I've got a bunch more tips, but I'll go through them another time. I just wanted to make a short, simple video today. But how about the rest of you out there? Do you have any gardening tips that you would give to a first-time gardener? If you do, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Of course, as always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and we'll see you around next time. Take care of yourselves out there, and I guess my phrase is, take care of your gardens. Take care of yourselves. This is Jet Lagged Ben. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.